Hey people, this is Eddy Kenzo, born and raised in Uganda. In Uganda, we love music and music plays on the street everywhere.
Did you ever imagine that you would be a musician someday?
Yeah. I really wanted to be a musician. I made a song called Stamina.
Right.
It was a very, very big song. It was my official breakthrough. It changed my story.
City of Lost catapulted his career and made Eddy one of the biggest Ugandan artists on the platform. Dance is such a key part of your act.
Yes, because I used to dance a lot on the street, and I love dancing. So my music is for joy.
It's so powerful that you make music for joy when it comes from a place of pain and all this suffering that you experienced growing up.
Yes.
You've won so many awards.
So many awards. I've won so many awards.
BET Awards, Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, Afrima.
He grew up with no parents, no home, and no safety net. Most kids his age were learning to read.
After losing his mom at 4 years old, Eddy was homeless and spent 13 years growing up in the streets.
I remember I used to spend even big days, Christmas, Eddies, no food, nobody can give you anything because how I was looking like.
Eddy Kenzo was learning how to survive. From sleeping in bus parks to making beats on empty tins, he held onto one thing the streets couldn't take from him: hope, and that hope carried him from the dust of Masaka to the biggest stages in the world.
I became a musician because I'm passionate to music and I know music and I love music, but was because of football that I got connected to the people who introduced me to actual studios.
This is the journey of a boy who had every reason to quit, but chose to rise instead. This is how Eddy Kenzo became one of Africa's most inspiring stars. Eddy Kenzo's story begins in Masaka, a small Ugandan town where life moves slowly, and most families rely on simple routines to get by. Born as Edrisa Mususa in 1989, his earliest memories were filled with love, but that warmth didn't last long. Before he even reached the age of 5, he lost both his parents. Losing one parent is devastating for a child. Losing both before you learn how to read or write changes everything. With no stable home and no family strong enough to take him in permanently, Eddy found himself drifting into life on the streets. He slept wherever he could: markets, bus terminals, abandoned corners, places that offered only temporary shelter. Food came from luck, leftovers, or long days of hustling. But even in this harsh environment, he held on to one thing that made him feel alive: music. As a child, he could create rhythm from anything he touched. A jerry can became a drum, a metal tin turned into a percussion instrument, and plastic bottles became his orchestra. Music wasn't a hobby. It was comfort, a reminder that joy could still exist, even when the world felt unforgiving. While other kids had toys or school books, he had beats he created with his hands. That became the foundation of his identity. Becoming a teenager didn't magically make life easier. Eddy eventually made his way to Kampala, the capital city, hoping for opportunity but arriving with nothing except determination. Kampala was busy, loud, chaotic, and full of people chasing their own dreams. For a kid with no money, no education, and no connections, it was intimidating. To survive, he worked any job he could find: washing cars, playing football for small local teams, selling water on the streets, and carrying goods for shop owners. Every day was about survival first, dreams second. But the dream never left him. He always believed music would save him, even if he didn't know how. He started sneaking into studios, asking producers for a few minutes of recording time, sometimes offering whatever money he had managed to save. Other times, he simply waited until the studio was empty and asked to use leftover time. He chose the name Eddy Kenzo, a symbol of luck, resilience, and the idea that he was meant to rise above hardship. His early songs made small waves in local circles, but they didn't push him into the spotlight. He worked for years without fame, without a fan base, and without guarantees. But he kept going because music gave him something the streets never did: purpose. One song would become the turning point. In 2010, Eddy Kenzo released Stamina, an energetic track with a rhythm that matched Uganda's lively pulse. It wasn't just catchy, it had character. It reflected the hustle, the drive, and the unstoppable energy of people who fight for their lives every day. The song exploded across the country. Suddenly, everywhere you went, you heard Stamina. In taxis, on radios, at schools, and even in political rallies. The song became so influential that it was used during the presidential campaign season that meant millions of people were singing it, whether they knew Eddy Kenzo personally or not. For a boy who grew up homeless, seeing his song turn into a national anthem was surreal. Overnight, he went from the street kid who loves music to a recognizable name in Uganda's pop scene. But as big as Stamina was, it was only the beginning of what he would become. Four years after Stamina, Eddy released a song that would take his life to places he never dreamed possible. Sitya Loss wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural moment. The sound was joyful, upbeat, and proudly Ugandan. But it was the video that changed everything. A simple video featuring Ugandan kids dancing turned into one of the most viral dance clips in Africa's history. Their moves were raw, real, and full of infectious joy. People across the world shared the clip, from Africa to Europe to America. It wasn't polished or produced. It was honest. It was life. And people felt that Sitya Loss introduced millions of new listeners to Ugandan music. Eddy Kenzo was suddenly performing at major venues across continents, sharing the stage with artists he once only watched on TV. In 2015, he won a BET award, becoming the first Ugandan artist to ever receive one. That victory didn't just belong to him, it belonged to Uganda. It was a moment that lifted the whole country, from the busy streets of Kampala to the small villages where kids dance barefoot in the dust. It told every African child who feels unseen or unheard that their dreams matter. It showed kids growing up in hard situations that greatness isn't reserved for the rich or the privileged. If a boy who once slept in bus parks could stand on the world stage, then their stories, their talent, and their hope are just as real. Eddy's history was not overwritten by his success. Over the course of his climb to prominence, he bore the emotional burden of his childhood for him. On numerous occasions, he expressed how lonely his voyage was, despite the fact that there were crowds, cameras, and music. However, fame did not heal the wounds of loss. It only alleviated the issues of poverty. Despite this, he was able to turn every obstacle into one of art. His songs frequently conveyed sentiments of love, optimism, and perseverance to his listeners. Music such as Jambole, Mbilo Mbilo, and Twayagale served more than just as a source of enjoyment. Their expressions were emotional reflections of a man who had been through more than the rest of the world was aware of. In addition to his own achievements, Eddy felt a responsibility to assist children who were going through the same challenges that he had experienced in the past. It was he who established the Eddy Kenzo Foundation, an organization whose mission is to provide assistance to children who are disadvantaged. Whatever it was, whether it was food, school supplies, or mentoring, He made sure that children who were growing up in difficult circumstances did not feel forgotten in the same way that he had. It was never Kenzo's intention to end up being known solely as a superstar. He desired to be remembered as someone who was able to use his success to better the lives of others. Then came one of the most significant occasions in his professional life. Eddy Kenzo was recognized with a Grammy nomination in the year 2023.
Every award possible, you've won it.
Yeah.
But the biggest one, obviously, was the nomination for the Grammys.
For the Grammys, man.
How did that feel like?
Bro, when you go back and see that video, I could not believe.
Give me love.
I can't even imagine how I felt, even right now.
Not only was this nothing more than a nomination for an award for a Ugandan musician, but it was also a significant step forward for the whole music industry in the region. The nomination acknowledged his dedication to telling stories that are authentic, cultural, and culturally significant. In doing so, it demonstrated to the world that music from Uganda was not merely regional, rather it was national. Although he was standing on the international stage, he carried the tale of every child who had ever slept on the streets, every artist who had labored in modest studios, and every dreamer who had been urged to give up. He was carrying the story of all of these people. It wasn't only about prestige when it came to the Grammy moment. It was something that symbolized the fact that a young boy who had nothing in the past had become a voice that was heard all across the world. Legacy, influence, and the spirit of rising. Again, his journey is more than just the story of a musician, according to Eddy Kenzo. It is the tale of triumphing against something that was inconceivable. The narrative of transforming suffering into song and overcoming adversity into strength. But it's not simply the prizes or the tours that make his ascent to prominence so amazing. It is the manner in which he maintained his humble roots while simultaneously becoming a symbol of hope. There are children all throughout Africa who look at him and see opportunities. They look at someone who began precisely where they are now with nothing and established a life for themselves through perseverance and faith. It is via his music that listeners are continually reminded to rejoice in life, to maintain their optimism and to persevere through the most difficult chapters. It is via Eddy Kenzo that the concept that dreams are not exclusive to those who are privileged is embodied. You are the owner of them if you are courageous enough to pursue them. Furthermore, regardless of the number of times you fall, resilience will always be able to assist you in rising again. A lesson that may be learned from Eddy Kenzo's life is that the beginning does not determine the end. Despite the fact that he had lost practically everything when he was a boy, he discovered his purpose in music and paved a way where none had been before. His ascent from the streets to the forefront of worldwide awareness exemplifies what is possible when an individual refuses to allow their history to determine who they are. Have you been moved by his story? If so, please share this video with someone who could use some encouragement right now. Remember to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Doing so is a great way to contribute to the expansion of the channel. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Which African artist's journey should we take next? We want to hear from you. Your suggestions help shape the stories we tell, and they connect us to the artists who inspire you the most. Whether it's a legend who paved the way years ago, or a rising star who's redefining African music today, tell us who deserves a spotlight. Your comment might be the idea that becomes our next documentary, so don't hold back. We're listening.